We sit here for coffee break with our coffees, having a coffee break. Cheers.
Breaking.
Cheers, baby.
You know, in Sweden, they call this a fika.
A fika matter.
A fika. So it's like a little morning tea where you have a coffee and over there they have a bulle.
A strudel.
Which is, well, a bulle is like a cinnamon scroll.
Bulle, bulle.
With some salt, sugar granules on top. It's quite nice.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I kind of made a thing where it's like, well, I mean, you just solve all problems by having a fika, you know? Feeling a bit down? Have a fika.
Have a fika.
Day been exhausting? Fika for you, mate.
Life-threatening illness?
You work at...
Fika.
Yeah, maybe.
Get your fika on.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, you've had a tough day. Have a fika.
Have a fika. I mean, that's the marketing campaign.
I was in the archipelago of sort of like little series of islands, and I was there for midsummer in Sweden a few years ago, and there was this kid who was exhausted. He was like, "Mummy, can we have a fika?" I was like,
well, there's the ad campaign as well. Mummy, can we have a fika?
But it's just like, you know, have a fika, guys.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this right now and you're tuning into Coffee Break, you deserve a fika.
It's just fika.
It's just fika.
Yeah, if you ever want to condense it down, we'll just call it, we'll just have a fika.
Yeah, and then once you've eaten your fika, you can go to the bathroom and get rid of some fika matter.
Always takes it there.
Yeah, boy.
Well, welcome to the Coffee Break, guys. Or the fika.
Oh, yeah, should we let Dum Dum speak?
This is Dum Dum here. We're fresh out of an amazing episode with Sammy Boy, who came through to chat about his documentary that is going live so soon, and he's on his media stint.
Public relations tour.
Yeah, and he's, I guess, turning, opening the eyes, opening a window into a shift in the system, you know, like fully shifting a business model and the way the industry works.
It was great having him on, speaking about such great stuff, and also just something that feels obviously very hard to pull off, but as an idea, like so simple, and why are we not doing that is kind of the biggest takeaway that I can get from it.
Yeah, well, as we spoke about in the podcast, it's kind of like something that whether we like it or not, we will be paying more for coffee eventually. So why not build these systems up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now?
And I really want to get him back on the pod at a later stage because, you know, we had this kind of meetup where he obviously had the project that he wanted to talk about and that, but he's a really funny dude and just like a silly guy. Like when we were chatting before the pod and, you know, we're obviously talking about serious stuff, but I'm like, no, he'd be a great guest just to get on and talk coffee crap for a while, and he's been in the industry for so long. He'd have some great kind of like little bitchy moments, I think, about the coffee industry, which we all love so much, just looking in at ourselves and poking ourselves.
He has some stories, I can tell you. He has some stories.
And he was just talking about a common friend that you have, which that also sounds like a great podcast. He was telling us about a guy that worked in coffee who now works at a juvenile like correctional facility. And just the other day he was working and he got bitten by one of the is it inmate? I don't know what you say, but he got bitten. Good on him. He's doing the cause, trying to inspire the kids and do the right thing. But, you know, there's some certain dangers that come with that job, and one of them is being bitten.
Yeah, well, apparently the doctor asked him, what animal were you bitten by? A human.
A human. Do I need rabies test for that?
Yeah, it was an excellent podcast. And one of those ones that's like, this is kind of why we do the podcast. You always wonder what's your why. And I guess this is one of the reasons why we do it, and to sort of tell stories like this. And it's one of the sort of pleasures of the job. And kind of, you know, I hope one day that the Zakukabora and some of the communities within it come rock stars in the coffee industry. Like they do produce those 90-point coffees that everyone's just, you know, frothing over and wants to buy, and it's very highly sought after.
Well, I instantly as well started jumping into like, how can both of us were like, okay, we need to buy a bag. We need to do that. There's an idea of competing within competition. That's cool. I wonder if like for their next harvest, if there's something we could do with the podcast where we do like the It's Just Coffee, Zakukabora, and we release like a limited range that we can kind of sell through this, or maybe give off to the listeners here.
Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's such a. He was already saying like, then when we say buy a bag, we're talking about the green coffee and doing commercial quantity, and it's already sold out.
Yeah, Australia. It's sold out. You have to pre-commit. Which feels like it should be the way for buying all your coffee and that kind of thing, but pre-commit to it, which is great. That's what you want to see, that those guys are sold out already, and you know, there's a waiting list almost to get in on that.
Yeah, but when I watched the documentary as a whole, and we've just finished the actual podcast up about it, and now we're doing coffee break, one of the thoughts that pops into my mind is like, if you're a barista, it's your duty to watch this, understand it, and then tell friends. Like,
absolutely,
it's kind of like something that we need to spread, because the analogy I gave was about the dairy industry, and compare the two and what kind of happened there. Even though they're two completely different industries, but like the theory is the same. They were getting such low prices for their milk that such a large amount of dairy farmers left the industry, and now we pay far more for milk anyway. It's kind of like what I think will happen to coffee, and let's just go about it in a better way.
Yeah, and if we're going to be paying more at a later date anyway, it's like let's now support the people that need the support and are growing the coffee and doing the right thing.
And it's but I feel like some of the issue, particularly in Australia, it's so hard to get people to want to pay more for coffee. Yeah. I think a lot of people have seen the scaremongering news articles about it, and they kind of like, what's another good that's been petrol, for example.
Yeah,
you can't live without it, but you're paying more, and you don't really complain. Like you probably complain more, but like you just have to pay more.
Yeah, but there's certain stuff like on the other side. Like I've found that the hardest thing to go against is human behavior and the path of least resistance, right? So like I remember back in the days of like LimeWire and illegally downloading stuff. Not that I ever did it, but hypothetically, if I knew people that did, the statement was, and especially back then, we don't get these shows quick enough from like overseas. It takes 6 months for them to come to get here. I can't pay for it to get in these ways. If I had an easy way to access this show, I'd pay for it, but I'm doing it illegally because that's the best way and the quickest way that I can get it. There is a problem that we, talk about. I know the cocktail market's gone up in price. I know that there's been change there, but people are using this as something that they want to get every day and want to have every day, and there needs to be a feasibility of the price. So I think what we talked about is there needs to be that balance on like, special occasion coffee or like regular coffee, or how that's kind of done. But I think it's going to show in the market that people are just going to be trying to solve that problem of selling coffee at that lower price. It'll be a tough pill, I think, to swallow for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, and I look at what they're doing and where it's come from in 2014. Then the next year it was 4 tons. Then he was just saying they processed 9 tons of coffee in one day or something like that. It's like the growth has been exponential. So it's pretty cool to see that. And I just wonder where it's going in the future. He was just saying that this year they're trying to raise money to invest in like processing equipment. And like, you imagine they're processing the amount of cherries they are now, right? And and he was saying they have particular problems drying the coffee. If I were to draw one comparison here, I really love coffee from Bolivia, and what they've managed to do in the Rodriguez family have managed to do in Bolivia through the company AgriCafe is so they'll buy from a whole lot of producers. They send all their cherries to a mill, and in this mill, rainfall in Bolivia is so sporadic that it's really hard to dry coffee cherries. And so what they do is they do a lot of mechanical drying now. What if something like that becomes the norm in Bolivia? And I just had this season's crop of Bolivia through my shop, and you pay a premium for it. It's excellent. It's as good as I've ever tried it.
Mechanical. Let's go back there for a second. Mechanical drying. Run us through that.
So they have these things in Bolivia called cocoa dryers. So what it is like you imagine a tub that's kind of like a square, and it fits, maybe like a ton of coffee cherry in it, or something, for example. It's got no lid. There's a little hole at the bottom. And basically what they do is they'll turn on a heater or like a flame, and it'll put heat through the coffee cherries and rise out the top. And this can all be done undercover. And then they'll agitate it.
Oh my God, it's like a coffee jacuzzi. It's like a coffee bean jacuzzi.
Yeah, but like it dries the coffee more consistently.
Right.
It can be done in less time.
And probably harvesting a better result because of that consistency from what you're tasting.
Well, yeah. The coffees that I had this year, so they call those the cocoa dryers. So they have like a cocoa natural process. And I'm pretty sure they do it for a lot of their wash coffees as well.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah. And there's just other ways to dry the coffee mechanically. It requires some investment.
Hair dryer?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But, imagine once you get something like that into this community in Uganda and improve the coffee dramatically, like you can systemize it so much better.
Because that was the big point and like something that we touched on briefly, but the change of quality from when they first started to getting that like damp, musty coffee that they were tasting to like just implementing a few simple changes that the farmers just didn't know about, and instantly you've got a product that's multiple times better, and now ranking in that specialty coffee range and hopefully even beyond that into the 90s in that grade score. And I like to educate here. I'm sure a lot of people know, but Kirk, can you give us a quick rundown, and maybe for Liam, do you know about the coffee scoring and how that works and specialty in those different ranks?
No, I don't.
You have a pretty good understanding of it if you want to run us through it.
So there's a standardized procedure in scoring coffee. Here we go.
Oh, we're getting a phone call. Who is it? Is it Hoffman?
Nah.
Is it Jimmy?
My girlfriend.
Ah, boo.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Sorry,
man.
I mean in comparison to Jimmy Butler or James Hoffman. But, do you want to answer it? You can take it live on the air. See what she's got to say?
She wouldn't appreciate that.
She wouldn't?
It was my dad I'd put on speakerphone.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
maybe we need to get your dad on as a guest.
I think there's a road rage incident coming on here.
Oh, what's happening?
Some guy's chasing, it's his workmate.
Okay.
Anyhow, the standardized coffee scoring system. So Craig Simon came on here and kind of elaborated on it as well. But basically what they'll do is everyone's sort of calibrated, so they're adapted to tasting the same sort of things. And they'll score things on things like sweetness, acidity, aftertaste, body, all those sorts of things, and they'll grade it, so give it a score. Now, traditionally speaking, specialty coffee is considered anything that's 80 points or above. We've kind of just had this argument during the show that maybe we should redefine that. That's what it is right now, to the best of my knowledge. So a lot of these coffees from Zukukabora are now scoring 84 plus. And then I guess it's kind of like a crowning moment when you reach the 90-point mark. And I know I've already used this analogy in the podcast, but I'm going to go back and use it again. Gail Bedecker from...
Oh, yeah. Those final 0.5%.
Yeah, those little... he was talking about the purity of meth.
Yeah.
But let's apply it to coffee here. Those extra points from even 87 above, like you go from 87 to 88, that's pretty big step. You go from 88 to 89, big step. You go from 89 to 90, you're in the big boy territory now. You go to 90 to 91, that's World Barista Championship winning coffee in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. Maybe we need to do a new coffee that's like a blue coffee and have that crystal blue persuasion coming in through the industry.
Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, the Fring.
Yeah.
I love that. Some other really important stuff that we touched on in the pod that I think is worth reiterating and elaborating on is the obsession of why all baristas are also boulderers.
Look, I don't get it. I tragically learned not so tragically, it's fine, but you're a boulderer.
Yeah.
And you had some interactions with people at your bouldering gym who identified as like, oh, you're the guy from coffee.
I don't know whether it's because a lot of the time if you're walking in the street, obviously stuff happens quickly. But out of all the places that I go, that is the number one place where it's like multiple times in like a session, people coming up about like the coffee thing. So it speaks to the fact that they're all coffee people. Maybe there's also something like if they're home beyond like just baristas in a cafe, if they're home baristas as well, there's something in like, I don't know, the idea of taking your time and doing that with coffee and like having that whole ritual feels pretty kind of similar to the idea of putting in the time. Like bouldering is the ritual of like the getting in, the stretch, the sitting there. People go there for hours. Like you see people, they'll go in, do like a few hours of bouldering, then they go up to the little sitting area upstairs and they'll study there for exams for 2 hours. And then they come back down and do another 2-hour session. There are people that are in there that I've never not been in the gym and not seen. They're there that often.
But what is with the high rate of uptake from baristas in this activity?
I was also going to say there's an age thing associated as well, though. I feel like it's like it's like picking up like guitar or baking sourdough in your 30s. It's like I've got to connect something. I've got to have some identity here. I'm a boulderer.
Are you a boulderer, Liam?
I've been bouldering, yes.
With me?
I don't know if I can call myself a boulderer. I have bouldered.
Hey,
and I enjoyed
the community is very welcoming. Anyone that,
true.
Even if you've never done it but just want to, you're a boulderer, you know?
I'm there. We're all boulderers at heart.
And for those who don't know, Liam is like jacked. Like this dude has a badonky donk. Like that thing, like
what's a donkey donk?
Oh, his butt is, he's got a bubble butt.
Okay.
He's got like a real round thing.
Packing?
And yeah, he's packing heat. And his booty is so big that he requested those like exercise balls to sit on at work for his desk, for, you know, ergonomics and all that. And as a great, employer, I was like, yeah, we'll get those for you. This dude has such a badonky donk that thing is squeezing out air every day. And we're constantly pumping him up.
It's got its own weather system, that thing.
It does. It's got its own orbit. Like I'm drawn to it. But anyway, what do you mainly do CrossFit, right? You're like ripping, you're throwing tires over.
Yeah.
So he's got that real swole body type that like, you know.
We're getting there. Look, I think you're talking me up a little bit. But
no, we're not. You're a big boy.
Yeah. I'm on the bigger side. I've got the bigger frame. But
Mate, you should see his thighs. The other day he's working. He does a squat and his pants rip back to front. I'm talking crotch to crack.
Yeah.
There was like the full, it was a total eclipse of the fart.
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, we're in the middle of the pod actually. And we're setting up and I put the, I don't know if it's in frame. Oh yeah, just behind Ro over there, over your shoulder. I was grabbing the plant to put in that little pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And as I knelt down, I heard a whip crack. And
I hate it when that happens.
Pants, see
It
you
was
later.
just the whip crack from my anaconda. Don't.
Yeah, that's it.
But back to the coffee stuff.
Oh, sorry, I got excited.
The reason why everyone's listening.
Yeah.
What was the biggest takeaway you took from, I'll ask you two things, from the documentary and from interviewing Sam?
That's a good question. I would say the biggest thing that I took away is basically just like, this is such a simple, self-fulfilling, self-helping kind of system that they've set up. Obviously very hard to set up, but it's the profits from the cafe are going back and investing into the people that are making the coffee. Then they're making coffee and it's coming back to the coffee shop. So there's such a system in place there that is just going to keep getting better and better and supporting one another and trying to do that. And these dudes, like, he didn't talk about it on there. We're going to talk about it, but he was like, we're unashamedly a for-profit company in what we're doing. There's obviously the charity, but like as a business, they're like, yeah, we want people to get paid and we want the people over in Uganda to get paid and we're going to pay them the right amount. We're going to set up this system and we're going to break this cycle that has been set up by some of these bigger importers to do that. And as I said, probably really hard to set up that infrastructure, but as an idea, so simple and makes so much sense. So you really hope that you start to see this kind of idea start to grow, become more accessible, become more tangible. So roasters can kind of be, whether it's part of themselves or just other organizations are going to help set that up, because you can see that common folk is for everyone. They've set up this whole thing with this Ugandan farm, Zakukabora, but it's now, they're probably going to get to a point where they're like, we can't even buy the coffee when it goes outside of that to such a global scale. And that's kind of the end goal, which is kind of cool to be like, won't it be cool when we can't even buy our own coffee that we invested in? Not our own coffee, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
And they kind of like, I do foresee once it's like anything, you plant the seed, you water a little, it grows, and who knows what it grows into. But I foresee in the next few years, once they've made those investments in sort of machinery and stuff, there's no reason why they can't be a competition-winning coffee or a 90-point. But have some lots that are in the 90-point range.
I feel like that's quite rare though, that kind of business model of like, like you just said, plant the seeds, water it and give it time. Like it seems like there's such a sacrifice on that kind of business model. And it's like, how do we transition the models that are already there to this? How can we make that like transition to kind of benefit all the people in the chain,
There's one example of it, like the CM selections thing that the Project Origin and Sasha Sesic did. Someone used that to win the World Barista Championship. That was Agnieszka Ryuska. And, Sasha's someone that sort of cops a lot of criticism online for, whatever reasons, and a lot of it, I think, unfairly. But, done that in the Messina village and made some improvements to the residents in Ethiopia's lives. And
what is that? Tell me more about it.
So carbonic maceration selections, I guess, is what it...
Carbomassy is what we like to call it.
So basically that's a form of anaerobic fermentation where they'll get the coffee cherries, they'll put it in a tank, then flush it with carbon dioxide, and it'll ferment and augment the flavors of the coffee. So they've got some natural versions where it's like very sweet and fruity, and they've also got some classic wash sort of profiles as well.
So you're talking about like there's a new processing process, and then that brought basically that coffee forward and up in the rankings.
Yeah, so he applied that processing technique to his coffee himself to win the World Barista Championship using a Colombian coffee that was from a more established farmer. But then Agnieszka, who was the Polish Barista Champion, she used it in 2017 from an Ethiopian coffee, and pretty like widely available coffee as well. And then you use it to win the World Barista Championship, and then you could go buy that coffee for like, a pretty reasonable price for us, and the farmer got looked after as well. So, I mean, there's one example of it kind of being done, and I kind of see this following a similar sort of pattern.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
That was my biggest, just to jump in, my biggest takeaway was that it's not a documentary about just the process of coffee, of how we get A to B. It's more about the community, but also providing the education. It's these 1% things that actually, it's like that classic analogy of like you teach a man to fish, and it's genuine. Like it's not only like you're teaching.
These guys are growing coffee, they're not fishing.
That's right. That's right. But it's not only teaching them a process and finessing, it's giving like freedom for creativity and like
the dude that was going the guy that was going on to do all the different processing and trying that, like in the doco, he's so excited. He's like, I just hear experiments and I just want to do that. And he was like so jazzed. And I think that's a big takeaway. I think if there's anyone who's really great in the hospitality world, I think that they are a community-driven person. We talked to, was it old Quail? Was it the Quailing that was just talking about, I'm all about the people. That's why I'm in this and that's why I'm doing it. And I think all the greats are all about people and connection. And so this just translates to a broader, more global stage of building connection and community there. And you're seeing a great community get built. There's hope. There's the ability to grow, and it was helping the entire community.
But there's another element to this that I'd like to point out, is that it's kind of like we're going to depend on this kind of model in the future. If you want to actually secure coffee for your business in a market that's more competitive to buy coffee, then you'll actually need to engage in sort of business practices like this to be able to guarantee you've got coffee for a whole year.
Absolutely. Well, there was that side, like there is the big question that I was kind of going at the end where it's like, to a lot of people, and it's hard to run a business. It's hard to make bucks. And as he was saying on the show, he's like, I'm not perfect. I'm part of the imperfect, machine here. There is that hard question. It was just like, what can roasters do today? And like, hey, that's a great, signing up and getting some of that coffee is a great way to start, but there's got to be more and more moving parts because it's such a small scale at the moment of like what can happen. But hopefully we can start seeing a few more of these kind of initiatives going.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I feel like Green Square should sponsor the podcast after all the PR we've given them in this episode and the last one. But that software that will kind of break down the barriers and allow you to kind of perform these transactions and
look at that marketplace and have a link to the direct traded ones with the full reports and that kind of stuff where you can access it and know that where your money's going and what you're doing there.
Yeah, but and on the producer side as well, they can kind of get a bit of clarity. You can get a bit of clarity, manage the shipment, all that kind of stuff. It's maybe the market's changing to an extent that we don't even know.
Oh, I'm sure there's so much that we don't know, but we can sit here at the moment without knowing that and just project what would be a great ideal world,
Well, I think we've been going on for about the length of what a coffee break should.
Maybe the employee's a little angry. Maybe we've taken a bit longer. A little smoko out the front, a little extra 10 minutes. But I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I think I've had a great time.
Too. I'm pretty peckish for lunch as well, though.
Oh, yeah. What are you getting? What are you thinking?
I don't know. Burrito could be on the cards.
Oh, that's interesting. I did last night like a Mexican salmon kind of thing. I'd made some tacos the night before. I had some like leftover like spicy yogurt with like lime and stuff that I'd made. And I was like, I need to stick on that Mexican train.
There's a nice little Sri Lankan place in the city that I like going to now as well.
Oh, what's that?
I don't even know the name of it, but it's near my work. So,
if we get a podcast next week that's actually in the afternoon, because I've been doing a lot of morning pods, maybe next week should be our hit up. What's your favorite
spice mix? I open at 5 though, so you know.
Well, that's perfect. What do you mean?
Oh, you want to do an afternoon?
That's what I'm saying. If we can actually get an afternoon podcast in where it's like a 4:00 podcast, finish at 5:30. And this, guys, this takes a while. There's the pre-setup, there's the time, there's recording it, there's the photos after, there's the coffee break. So, 5:30, 6, we're rolling in and we're eating some delicious curries.
We should do an event where we like just get them to cater it one day, like one of our live podcasts that we plan to do. I feel like
you've been talking about it.
Oh my God, since day one. Yeah. Since day one that you came here, you were like, we need to go to, or maybe there's like a lucky listener. No one wants to win this prize. One lucky listener gets to go to dinner with Kirk and I. The prize nobody wants. We haven't received any emails about this upcoming prize. But yeah, let us know. Speaking of which, that kind of leads well into the email, hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. If you want to go on a dinner date with Kirk and Rohan, let us know. If you have any hot takes,
send us your hot takes.
Let us know.
Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
I want to know the hot takes. You can send us one that we can read out and give you the credit for, or you can send us a video and we'll play it during the show. But we'd love to hear your hot takes.
Yeah. And let me know the good breakfast spots that I need to hit up. I want to go to some great spots, give them a little shout out, chuck them in the story. Unless it's crap, then we won't roast you, but I won't be sharing it.
All right. Well, that just about wraps it up. You got anything else?
That's all I got, baby.
That's another episode of Coffee Break. Liam.
It's just coffee, and this has been it's just coffee, and this has been Coffee Break. We'll see you guys next week. Please email us at hello.
Oh, he fumbled it. He fumbled it. Cut. It's over.
It's over.
Cut.
Guys, I'll see you next week.
We'll just put it on the screen.
Yeah. It's
Ciao.
there. So, see you guys.